Welcome back to The Chosen Life. I am your host, The Chosen Lawyer, and today's guest, he is back again, our watch aficionado, blogger, expert. We're going to be diving into watches heavily today. That's why I'm wearing the green shirt. We got BigFatPauli. Pauli, welcome back to The Chosen Life.
Thanks so much for having me. It's great to be back. Super excited to be here.
Well, before we talked about watches, plus your better half was on talking about health, nutrition. Today's going to be all about watches. So if we're going to do our watch thing, the first thing I got to ask you is, what do you got on the wrist today?
Well, we're talking about Rolex today, so I thought I'd wear an Omega.
An Omega.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So no,
And
I'm actually wearing a Rolex 1016. It's I only own I really only own one Rolex. The other one's my wife. She has a Hulk.
yes,
But this is mine. And yeah, I got it before the hype, before they blew up. Fortunately, I was really lucky. I still paid too much for it, but it's there's something about the classic Explorers. I really like the matte dials. I know gloss and gilt dials are all the rage, and that's what everyone seems to want. But there's something about a matte dial Explorer. It's just the ultimate tool watch. I think it's super appropriate for today. It's the same watch that Ian Fleming wore. He wore a 1016. I think he had a gilt dial based on timelines, but it's and actually in the books, I believe the way they describe the watch, I actually think that James Bond was supposed to be wearing an Explorer. But in the movies, I think, and I could be wrong on this, that it's actually Sean Connery's personal Submariner that he wears. So that's kind of how that got shifted over because it was before big sponsorships and all that sort of stuff. So
I love how we got to throw in. Okay, when you're in the watch collecting world, and it's they call time, but when at our level, it's called timepieces. We no longer call them watches; it's timepieces. But since it's a mainstream show that goes worldwide, we're going to call them watches.
sure.
But I love how when you own a watch, you have to put in the disclaimer: I bought this before it was popular. I bought it before it blew up. I didn't follow the masses. I got this watch when you could have bought it at any time of the day in any showcase,
Yeah.
and it's not my fault that the thing is so popular now. I got it when it was not in demand. I do the same thing. So
Fair enough. I mean, it was a little in demand. It was just at the beginning, so I probably was influenced by the hype a little bit. But it's actually it's just a great watch. It's just easy to wear. Don't have to worry about it, and it's just a cool piece. So
I wore a special watch for you and for this episode as
appreciate it.
well.
Very nice. Omega,
DeVille.
like the it's like you're right out of a catalog. It's perfect. You've been practicing in front of a mirror for a couple hours before.
Buddy, if you go into my camera roll on my phone, you're going to see my dog, my son. You're going to see all the foods I ate and every watch that I ever tried on at any AD. So the way I do it is I take a picture of the watch on my wrist while I'm at the AD. I admire the picture. Then I take the picture, I blow it up, I put it onto my wrist. So I'll put my phone on my wrist and I look as if how the watch is
Yeah,
looking, and I resize the watch, see if I'm happy with the sizing. So I've been practicing this shot for years.
good for you. You've nailed it.
Well, if the Omega people or Rolex people ever need a hand model, I'm happy to lend my services. Contact me at Chosen Lawyer. So, as we're jumping in today, we got watches and wonders of 2023, big launch. Today, we are going to focus on the Rolex launches because that's the way it goes, unfortunately, in our world, that we have to analyze every little change that Malibu Stacy does, and whether she has new hat and what colors her hat and what colors the brim of her trim of her hat. But overall, when the shows happen, Pauli, I gotta tell you, I see the releases, and I don't know, maybe I've been in the game for too long and I'm a little disenchanted, but I'm like, I don't get it. I'm like, it's all about lug size, bezels, dials, new colors, new colors of the indices. Like, it seems like it's all been done, so to speak, across the board. And I had my particular favorites, which we'll talk about, which were not Rolexes as far as the launch goes. But in general, when you go through the catalog as far as what each of the brands brought to the table and what they actually put out there, excited, happy, disappointed? How do you feel?
I think a lot of the watches that I chase lately are the ones I've really been attracted to tend not to pop up at Watches and Wonders. They might be independent releases or sort of smaller offerings that they're doing throughout the year. Those are the ones that I just tend to gravitate towards. I think this year, and we'll get into it, I think Rolex actually really did do something radically different. And there's a few things I think they did that actually were quite exciting, more than most years. I think generally speaking, you're right though. It's the same old, same old. There's not a whole lot new. It's just rehashing of an old ideas. It's I don't know, the next version of the same watch. I mean, the Mark, whatever we're up to with IWC, it looks kind of the same. And I know watch people are going to come after me and say, "Oh no, the hand and the." I get it, but to the layperson, it's kind of the same. I mean, same like the Speedmaster. It's been the same, and there's been a lot of limited editions that kind of come out as peripheral watches. But yeah, I think the other thing too is the watch industry generally is pretty slow moving. I mean, it's technology that's super out of date. It's superfluous for. I mean, so naturally speaking, I think it's just not an industry geared for major evolution. And I think there are brands out there that are doing really, really, really crazy stuff that you do see that evolution. But I think the mainstream stuff is going to be kind of the same small changes every year, just a little bit of evolution. But I think that also is appropriate for the customers who are buying things like a Rolex or an Omega or anything like that. For me,
It seems to me
I get what you're saying.
it seems to me a lot of blue dial. Now there's a green
Yeah.
dial, but there's different shade of green. Salmon dial. Ooh, the Tiffany blue
Yeah.
dial.
Love Tiffany
The
blue.
dark blue dial, the red dial. Like this is where it really seems like, I was looking at an IWC not long ago, a
Yeah.
Portuguese, and the 7 8 day. I call it the 8 day, the 7 day, and I see the bright red blood dial, and I'm like, actually like that one a lot. That changes everything for me.
Yeah.
And I used to have a Rolex Datejust. I had two of them actually. I had one, both of them were 36.
Mhm.
Both of them, had the salmon dial. One had the diamond dial. One with the Romans.
Yep.
And as I traded up in the world, I miss my salmon. But now it seems like every corner I look, everybody wants salmon.
So interesting. So you may have had the same Datejust that I had. My first Rolex was the 116234, which is the white gold fluted bezel stainless steel case with the salmon or copper, whatever color it was, with the Roman numerals on an Oyster bracelet. So
That
what was yours?
that my second ever Rolex was the Roman with the diamond dial.
Okay.
I got the Roman one later on, actually from a watch collector on our site,
Mhm.
and that translated into a Batman.
Okay.
Long story. It's
Okay.
funny how they all kind of mesh into each other. Gotta understand, there's only a certain amount of money to go around for a lot of people, and
Sure.
even the super docs of this world. I
Mhm.
took a look at the site, and he's planning something big. All of a sudden, his Hulk is up for sale and his Pepsi's up for sale, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh,
Both
he's
are
gonna.
sold.
The Hulk just sold,
Yeah.
so I was listed for 27K.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember even when it was getting to be during our pandemic and Hulks were starting to go up. I was looking at one with the box and papers, everything, and the guy was asking for like 19 or 20. I'm like, guess I should have bought it. But again, there's only so much money to go around. So that's how she works out.
Sorry, I think I actually have one here. Hold on a sec. To me, this watch, yeah,
Yes.
right here. This watch is not worth that kind of money for me. Like, I mean, it's interesting. I got it upside down. Doesn't even matter. I mean, the dial's nice. I mean,
Yes.
everyone's seen it. I mean, it's
It's
I don't
gorgeous. I
know,
mean, it is gorgeous, but
but
I liked it.
30K. I don't know.
I liked it when nobody wanted. Everybody wanted the black one. Everyone wanted the black on black. Nobody wanted to get the green on green.
Yeah.
And buddy, for the long forever, I could have bought a Hulk any day of the week, and I
Mhm.
do think they're coming back. They discontinue something, all of a sudden prices have shot up 10, 20%
Sure.
already. But I think it's come back. So you know what? Without further ado, we're gonna do something revolutionary today with your permission. You prepared this awesome PowerPoint presentation. We're gonna do it. We're gonna go live with it, and we're gonna showcase and we're gonna do our evaluations of all the Rolex news that came out of Watches and Wonders. Look at this, Watches and Wonders, and I thought both of us would come on, but
I
I
guess
guess
not.
the
It's
wonders
just you.
of Zoom that it's one of us. So
It's okay. The
uh,
better looking one's on. It's fine.
well, it does match well with the green. I do
It
embed in
does.
there as really well. Plus, and it has the gold too.
Yeah, you're very appropriate today. You're very well dressed.
Did what I could.
So
So
you can
you
see. Go
yes.
ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say you have the title here, a collection of slightly all over the map, slightly uninspired, slightly retro, slightly backpedaling watches. Tell us more.
As long as you don't know what my feelings are initially with this, but it's kind of alluding to exactly what you said. Like a lot of this stuff is like, really, this is the change, this is the big news, and people are going to go crazy for it. And yeah, we'll get into it. I cover all these things, but it was a really all over the map collection, and I think this year Rolex really dropped a bomb, and no one noticed it. And again, we'll get into that, but I think they there's somebody at Rolex who had a really good laugh and said, "We're going to do this, and no one's going to say a thing, and they're going to just chuckle at it." So it was an interesting year in that sense. They did some stuff that was pretty crazy, but for the most part, the changes were exactly what you're describing. I mean, specifically, if you want to get into the first slide, or if you want to talk a little bit about this too, sort of what your take is.
I will give a little disclaimer that just so people understand, all the viewers at home today watching this and are all excited about, I want to hear what you guys have to say about the big launches. Pauli and I are both fluent in sarcasm from a linguistic point of view.
Yeah.
So if you have you ever studied sarcasm before? I don't know if it's your first language or not, but you're gonna really enjoy today's one. A little tongue in cheek, but we are serious. And Pauli, one thing I love about him, among other things, he does not hold back. So let her rip. Let's get to it. First of all, Daytona, because what's new is what isn't new.
Yeah. Like what's the change here? You know, I mean, okay, the lugs I guess have changed, and I've looked back and forth between the old Daytona and this one, and okay, I mean, the big change is the bezel around the around sort of the ceramic, I guess, bezel insert now. That I think is the biggest, it's the most significant change. I don't know how much visually you'll actually see it. I actually think this is done not from a design perspective, like aesthetically. I think this was actually done to solve a problem they had with the Daytona. And my speculation is, and I don't know if I'm right, but I bet you that bezel, they've had some come back that were chipped, because ceramic can chip. It doesn't really scratch, but it can chip. And sort of if you look at the old Daytona, that ceramic bezel actually has an edge that's exposed. So if you hit it just the right way, it could chip. And so I wonder if they added this piece of steel there to act as sort of a protector for it. And I wonder if that was sort of the primary reason they did. I don't know, but I'm wondering if that is. Because from a design, I don't know, what's your take on that?
Well, the first question I got to ask you is this much. When a new design comes out, and obviously this is tongue in cheek, but for the people out there that are fortunate enough to own the predecessor model, as far as the ceramic Daytona goes, should they be throwing this in the garbage now? Should they be listing them immediately and trying to pick up this one? Uh, when they make these type of changes, how much does it affect people and the values of the watches that are already out there in the market?
That's a good, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, for me, I think this change is so minute. I don't know how much impact it's really going to have. I think it's the Daytona. So I mean, this is King Pumbaa hype right here, right? This is, nobody actually wears a Daytona, you know, like you just have it to flip it basically. So, you know, I think because it's discontinued, it's going to have an impact. And that's just sort of how the market behaves. I think if you take that out and showed it to any reasonable person, even a watch collector, I just can't see this making a substantial difference for me.
It's like you said, it's the Where's Waldo of changes. I have a good friend of mine that wants a Daytona very, very badly. When I had my chocolate brown on the leather strap, he told me, "Oh, you should have sold it to me." And I said, "I did ask you before." Anyways, I saw one that came up on a site for a store locally, and they had a collector that was flipping over a two-tone one with the black dial and the diamond indices. And I told him it's not that much of a markup. I know it's two-tone. I like two-tone personally. If you want a chance to jump into a Daytona, and he went to the store right away and he bought it. So and somebody that, you know, is not going to say cheap, but very careful with their money. And he was really, really happy with it. I know a guy that got a wedding gift, and his wife was able to score him a Daytona steel, but the steel bezel, not the ceramic, which I still tease him about to this day. To me, look, just even the way they take these pictures, like the way that you see it on the top angle there, and I see Daytona in the red, that makes me want it. You know, when I actually had this watch, not this particular model, but a Daytona. I don't get it. Like, I'm not going to unscrew those guards to use the pushers ever. I don't know if
No.
anybody in the history of mankind has ever unscrewed these pushers. It's a guard, I get it, but it's just literally for show. Let's be honest. It doesn't even have a date. So you're not going to be able to get this watch regardless. If you are one of the lucky ones and you actually bought it at retail, enjoy it. I don't think it matters in the slightest. I think most people are so careful with them that they're not going to chip regardless. If it's something they had to do, great, but it ain't broke. Don't fix it. And this one ain't broken. For whatever it is, people love it. Let them enjoy it at the end.
Yeah, I agree. It's just it's a shame because genuinely, I actually really like the Daytona, especially the ceramic version. The last one or this one, I think, are both. To me, I really like the watch. I think it's a really nice design. I think it looks good. I actually like it. Can't get one, and if I did get one, they'd say, "Well, how much are you going to wear it?" and that kind of stuff. And part of me says, "Oh no, I would just wear it." I think, but it's a shame that it's so hyped up, and it's a shame that there's become such a feeding frenzy with them, and that because I think it really takes a lot of enjoyment out of owning one of these for a lot of people who just want to wear it as just a nice, cool looking chronograph. I agree with you. The pushers are ridiculous. I mean, if you're actually going to use a chronograph, you have to walk around with them unscrewed all the time, which is fine, but they don't look as nice unscrewed, in my opinion.
I
So,
remember I had my Omega, my
yep,
chrono, and playing with the pushers in traffic or whatever.
yep,
It's fun, you know. And if I was
sure,
gonna get a Daytona, I want a pre-model where it didn't have the crown guards. And good luck in locating one of those, and you're gonna pay big money for them.
yeah,
So it's simply not gonna happen. But again, people love it. It ain't gonna change, and the waiting list ain't gonna change. It's only gonna get worse over time.
yeah,
And I think that's just the reality of our society. Same thing. You don't have to go buy Jordan 1 Dior's and you're going to spend $10,000 to $15,000 for a pair of shoes,
yeah.
then good luck to you.
And you only gonna wear them inside, you know?
So there's an art to it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to have those shoes, you're going to wear your slides when you're driving. Then when you
Okay.
park the car, you change into your shoes, which have been sitting in the box. Wear them carefully. When you come back to the car, put them back in the box, go back into your slides, bring them home, grab the wipes, wipe the edges, grab a little nub. I usually use the one where you pop your SIM card from your iPhone, and I
Okay.
scrape in between and get all the stones out of the sole of my shoe. This is where life is at when you're a shoe collector. But that's another episode for another day.
I was
Buddy,
gonna
I'm
say.
so excited because I want an open back Rolex. They finally have them. Amazing. When do I get mine?
Okay, first of all, they've had them for years, like decades. Okay, it's
Really?
just yes, it's from another line that nobody cares about. So, but this is the first professional Rolex that's had one. Yeah, because the Oyster Prince, which was around I think early 2000s, had a transparent back. It was a manual wind, and Oyster Prince. It was a rectangular watch. Shoot, I want to say King Midas, but it wasn't. But they actually made a rectangular watch with a transparent back, manual on movement.
So I'm lucky
Ugly.
enough. So I'm lucky enough to get on the list. I
Yeah.
pick up my Daytona. It's a two-tone. It's a yellow gold. It's a steel
Mm-hmm.
model. I'm really excited to see my transparent case back. Is that going to be the case?
I don't know what Rolex plan is here. I wonder. I don't know what their motivation is. I think part of it may have just been people have been complaining about this for a long time. This is a really expensive watch. We're going to put it on. So what the hell? Let's just stick it on and let them eat their cake type of thing. I don't know if it's going to trickle down to the rest of the watch line. A big part of me really hopes it doesn't, frankly. I think one of the really kind of nice pieces of history of Rolex was it was truly a tool watch. It was meant to be used and worn and you're in the garden or in the field or working with machines. Like you could really wear it as what it was. And the stainless steel back, I think, is really part of the design of it, the overall feel of it. And what I really miss is nobody engraves the back of their watch anymore. And I don't know if I've told you this story, but my dad bought his Rolex in '67 when he immigrated to Canada, and he worked at a hotel. And one of the owners of a large dealer in Switzerland used to come in, and he used to have dinner there, and he would tip the staff with gift cards to his store. And so before he moved to Canada, he went there with a stack of gift cards. He said, "I've got this much money. I need a watch that's really going to last me when I move to Canada." And they said, "Oh, sir, Rolex." And they engraved the back for him. And so it has his name. And I think that's so nice. It really makes it his watch. And I think that mentality of buying it forever, again, it's lost in I think a lot of people now. But I think that was a really nice thing that Rolex did, and Rolex was kind of almost unique in that field because not many brands actually offer solid case backs anymore. Everyone's gone this way. So this to me is Rolex really following versus leading. And again, again, I think it's just not who they are. But I think people do ask for it.
Fair enough. And for me, I like the transparent case back, and
Mm-hmm.
it bugs me when I don't have one. So my Omega that I have currently on my wrist, some of the DeVilles have it, some of them don't. This one
Yeah.
does not, and I like having the transparent case back. But if you want to get it on the Daytona, currently you're only going to get it on the platinum with the ice blue dial. So membership has its privileges.
Yeah. Now,
Uh,
I
yeah.
actually do you know if the solid case back version has been discontinued? Or like is it an either or thing if you're buying one, or is it only with the transparent case back now?
I thought it was only the transparent, but you never know with them, the monkey games that they play. But
Yeah.
I think it's been switched over. But I guess we're gonna find again. You're not gonna see it in the showcase. You're not gonna find out
No.
anyways because before pandemic times, I could have gone to a store and bought a platinum Daytona anytime that I wanted. I could have bought
Mm-hmm.
a solid gold one,
Yeah.
white, rose, yellow, anytime I wanted. Leather strap, Rolex rubber strap,
Oyster Flex,
whatever.
yeah.
The flex, they would have been there every day of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're not seeing it regardless, but if somebody does locate it, we will find out, I'm sure. But you know what? I will say this much: it does look good.
Yeah, it's a really good look. I like the brown and blue. I think that's a really nice combination. It's not something you see on a lot of other brands. I think they've done it well. That's a good looking watch.
Chocolate and ice, baby, chocolate
Yeah,
and ice, because that's what they
it's
call
nice.
chocolate, actually.
Yeah, it's nice. I mean, a lot of money, but
Skydweller, you have to be high to own one.
yeah.
At
I
least,
don't know. Does anybody actually like this watch? I know
okay.
people in the comments be like, "Oh, I love this guy," but I mean, really?
So you know what? I remember as far as one time looking at one with a leather strap, and when there was a million of them in the showcase,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, it's kind of nice. It looks nice. It kind of looks kind of presidential, whatever. It's kind of cool. Let's be frank at the end of the day. It's all about flipping this watch. Everybody I know that's ever acquired this watch has flipped it successfully, has been
Yeah.
thrilled about that. That's all it comes down to. Other than the flipping, I don't see it. I don't get it. I know one pilot that doesn't even want one. So it's cool that they did it. It's
Mm-hmm.
a nice flex. They used to not be able to give them away.
Yeah.
So, but it's got a green dial now.
Oh well, that's true. Now I really want one. I mean, a green dial. Holy smokes!
It's got a green dial, man.
To me, the case looks like a date chest that was stung by a bee. The proportions are all wrong. It's way too thick. It's too big. I will compliment Rolex on actually making. Here's the thing: Rolex always gets grief. They say, "Oh, they only make time-only watches," and people say, "How come they don't do a perpetual calendar? How come they don't do a this? Or how come they don't do a that?"
Mhm.
Like they used to, right? And then you see them do things like the Yacht-Master 2 was a really unique, really out there, really actually very interesting complication. Nobody likes the Yacht-Master 2,
I'm
right?
sorry, but if you are DJ Khaled or someone along his proportions that is in Miami and you're on a yacht, it's kind of embarrassing not to have a Yacht Master too. But that's pretty only the rapper yacht segment, I would say. Otherwise, it is the douchiest watch you can get out there,
That's
pretty much.
it. But it's interesting as far as so this is interesting as far as the complication goes, but
But
it's
I'll
just not that nice.
well, but again, green dial.
Yeah, green dot. I mean, it's
So GMT Master 2, a change so subtle you didn't even see it. Mm-hmm.
that's a two-tone bezel. I mean, on that left image, you can't even really because the way the light hits it.
Yes.
But I mean, I guess in person, maybe that would be cool. I do like that it's subtle.
Help me help myself.
Yeah.
So I'm Joe Public.
Hmm.
What was the GMT Master 2 before and after this change? Please help me understand.
I guess it was black and blue.
So it was just a solid black, really, and now it's two-tone.
Well, there was also there was the Batman, there was the Pepsi. I mean, they have a few different colors. This is just the
Yes.
next. But I don't know what I mean. I don't know. That's the thing. I guess it's a minor improvement over the solid black because it does give you that contrast. But I mean, this what you're talking about earlier about watches that it's hard to get excited over.
Yes.
This to me is it. This is like it's the next generation of car, and it comes with different wheels that are only slightly different, but nothing
G-
else has changed. And I'm not going to run and buy a new one.
the GMT Master 2 is another funny one because the steel with the black bezel and the
Mm-hmm.
green hand, green arm, that one was sitting in showcases forever, two
Sure.
tones forever and ever and ever, even gold ones. It just people like the gold sub, they didn't like the gold GMT Master 2.
Mm-hmm.
Ever since the Pepsi took off and the Batman, Batgirl, now all of a sudden, they're all getting love. People are paying 17 grand for the for the steel
Mm-hmm.
black bezel with the green hand. I don't get it. I don't see where, what, how people most okay, the average person that owns a GMT Master 2 doesn't even know how to use that extra hand. Let's be
No.
honest. Not even a clue why it's even there. If you are in two different time zones, you can make use of it. It's fantastic. Or if you got to keep track of two time zones, certainly. But otherwise, it's just a neat watch. I think it always is going to come back to Pepsi, Coke, Sprite, whatever they want to come up with in the future. But this kind of stuff doesn't excite me either.
My question is, so the thing is, you're right. Like, how many people actually use this as a like a traveling time zone watch? Very, very few. The flip side is dive watches are all the rage. And how many people actually dive with them? Like one guy, right? So like nobody. And if they do, they use a dive computer prop. Like, so yeah, I agree with you. It's neat. I mean, I think I'm sure I've told you the story. The first Rolex before I bought my Datejust, I actually put a deposit down on a GMT, and it was a 16710, so it was the last GMT Master 2 with the aluminum bezel. And I think he gave it to me at 15 or 20% off, and he threw in the extra two inserts. And my wife didn't like it. She said, no, you got to get something else. You got to get. So I passed it up. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. So, but anyway, it was a watch. I mean, I didn't travel at all ever at the time. So it's like, oh, but I still. So there's something about the complication. I think it's very romantic. I think it's one of those things that it lets you pretend you're going to go somewhere else at any given moment. It's because a lot of these watches I think are make believe, right? You wear a pilot's watch because you pretend you're a fighter pilot sometimes. Whether you consciously do that, there's still something about it, right? Or you wear a Carrera or a Daytona because you're a race car driver, or a diver because you're Jacques Cousteau or whatever. It lets you play out those boyhood fantasies, and I think this is the same to a large degree, aside from just being a watch you get because you want to flex or flip. So
By me
but
wearing
yeah,
this, I am James Bond. I don't care what you say. I think I'm Sean Connery with my leather strap. But that's where someone told me, yeah, a while ago. We're talking about Daytonas, for example. He goes, "Do you know how preposterous it is to have a solid gold Daytona on a leather strap? If you think
yeah,
about it, like it's meant to be a racing watch. It should be in steel. I don't want to see any other material but steel."
yes. Or maybe arguably titanium would be the like I'm not a fan of titanium watches personally, but hold on a sec here. Because if you're saying, okay, on a race car, we're doing all these things to reduce every little ounce of mass, then titanium would be a reasonable, and then you put it on a NATO because that's the lightest possible thing. So, okay, I kind of can follow and connect the dots there. Whether that is nice or not in reality is a different story.
Fair. And that's where also, I'll say, and I am a leather strap guy, and Omega gets it right. Like most of their leather straps, it feels like it's already worn in once I put it on. It's
Yeah.
wonderful. I did not like the Rolex leather strap at all. It takes forever to break it in. And there's something special about that Rolex bracelet that just cannot be duplicated. And that's where I've heard the people who have the rubber love the rubber, but it's like, okay, I'm paying $50,000 for rubber. This
For
is
rubber.
not right. So that's kind of an issue
Yeah.
there as well. But no, I'm feeling you there. And that's where, whoa, lo and behold, you just mentioned titanium. How did we do that?
So I have to apologize because I know people are gonna like what happened to Yacht-Masters 2 to 41. I realized there's a Yacht-Master 2, but I'd already typed this up and it slipped my mind. And I realized there's also a Yacht-Master 36 and a Yacht-Master 34. So there's some numbers in there that are filled in, but not all of them. So it's So this is okay. Go ahead. You go ahead.
Okay. When I first saw, and I just saw this from the corner of my eye, I'm like, okay, so we got a sub sea dweller type scenario thing cooking here. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Back to the roots with the Yacht-Master. All right. So we're trying to make something subish looking here. What are we doing? Like, we're going back to there. And then I'm like, titanium.
Mhm.
I, I, I'm paying that kind of money for a watch. I want substantiality on my
Sure.
wrist. I don't want to feel like I'm wearing a feather. I cannot. I remember trying on with the Omegas when they had the Planet Oceans.
Yep.
I had the biggest Planet Ocean one could have, loved it. And then I feel the titanium. I'm like, there's no substance in this watch. I can't take it. I feel like titanium. You love it, you hate it. That's it. There's nothing in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think it's a very binary kind of feeling most people have towards it. What's interesting about this watch is, first of all, it has a matte black dial, which I'm a big fan of, and I do applaud that. The Yacht-Master was always the more elegant professional Rolex. I mean, if you look at like say just like a regular stainless steel sub, it's all brushed. And the Yacht-Master had the polished lugs, had the polished center links. It was a little dressier. And now this has actually gone the other way. This actually looks quite tough and it's all brushed, right? Versus a Submariner, you can get a two-tone or a solid gold where the center links are polished. So this is a really interesting flip, I think, on Rolex's side of how they're taking the direction of the Yacht-Master. And I feel like it might be a symptom of they don't know what to do with it. I feel like this shouldn't be called Yacht-Master. I feel like it should be called something else, like the
Sea dweller.
yeah, almost exactly right. Like it just needs. And what's interesting too is we kind of got this preview with this Ben Ainsley guy. I don't even know who he is to be honest, but he had this black version which had come up. We had seen a few pictures, which is a unique piece to him, and then they dropped kind of this version that isn't. I think his is PVD coated, and this one's not. So it's kind of an interesting. I've never seen Rolex do that before, where they make a unique piece for somebody, and then kind of release a very similar style for the masses, whoever can get this.
I
So I thought that was
recall.
kind of an interesting move.
I gotta ask you about the Yacht-Master because it felt like for years I was the only one that liked the Yacht-Master before the
Mhm.
Yacht-Master 2 came out. It was like the forgotten child, you know. It's sad in showcases. Even during
Yep.
pandemic, I remember somebody had up on our site, I believe it was Joel, if I'm not mistaken. He had the all gold Yacht-Master,
Yep.
no
White
box and
dial.
papers, likely polished, but a beautiful piece. And it's like it's a fraction of the cost of a present and the thing was not moving and I don't understand why. Like what, yeah, it has a nice classy refined look to it. If you like a sub, why won't you like a Yacht-Master? But
Mhm.
you know this, I thought for the longest time they're going to discontinue it because it's just not going. The name of it is perfect. What do
Yep.
you think up until recent history why the Yacht-Master was so poo-pooed?
I think it was building the hype, right? I mean, people first where the Daytona was always pretty hyped, or at least in memory was always hyped. And then the Submariner was the next one to catch on because it's sort of the mainstay. And then I think it had to get down to the GMT, and then the Explorer finally got hyped. So this is the last kind of vestige of, and I agree with you. I think the original Yacht-Masters, like their first generation, I mean, the platinum bezel, the platinum dial with the red second hands, I mean, that's a stunning watch. And even the two-tone, like I'm not a fan of two-tone generally, but the bezel is like that sand-blasted kind of bezel on the inside, and then the dial, you get the white dial. It's just like that's a really sharp looking watch, in my opinion. And I don't know what's changed. I think people, it says Rolex now. I think they've got the market in such a position that they can make anything as long as it's got their brand on it, except for one line, but basically anything. And people are going to go for it. And I think they're capitalizing on it.
Well,
Um,
stay tuned on that
so this
because
this watch is
yes.
the bomb that I think that Rolex dropped, that kind of everybody, that most people missed, because I have not seen many people talk about this. But
Mhm.
what's so significant about this is a real callback. And if you want to go to the next slide, because the lugs are chamfered. Oh shoot, I missed talking about collabs and how they work so well. Oh, I'm sorry, George, I forgot about you, buddy. Oh well, that was a lost
He did okay.
opportunity.
He did okay on those ads, by the way. Really
Yeah, I think
okay.
he did okay. Yeah, a lot did well. He doesn't like the coffee though, but so
I don't get it either, but listen, the guy needs to make a buck. So
yeah, well, I think
those
he.
islands don't buy themselves, Pauli.
Yeah, honestly, all those jets cost money. Have you seen the price of jet fuel these days? So, but this I think is really, really, really interesting that they've actually moved this direction because this to me is exciting because this is one of those things that collectors go crazy for. And I think this was a really nice design feature of some of the older watches. And so I'm really happy to see this because they moved totally away from this. And this is a smart design, I think, from even a functionality point of view, because that sharp edge on the corner of a lug is the thing that tends to get dinged, at least for me. And this really helps mitigate that. So I think this to me, I hope this is a sign of things to come because I really, really like this.
The
And
smooth, the smooth out versus the sharp.
yeah, the chamfer, right? So it's got the side
Agreed.
of the case, the top of the lug, and then there's that kind of 45-degree polished piece, kind of shown also in the bottom right from the vintage sub with the Explorer dial. So I think that's a really, and modern Rolexes generally do not have this,
And I
and
do,
this is unique.
and I do like the brush look also. I agree.
Yeah, I mean it looks nice, but it's not a Yacht-Master. This on a sub is really nice. If this was the profile of a Submariner, I'd be like, that's pretty cool.
Ifs and buts were candies and nuts.
Yeah.
Explorer. I bet Omega wishes they could phone it in like this. Um, what am I looking at besides a starter Rolex that nobody wanted? What am I staring at here?
It's 39 mil. This is talk about backpedaling. We made it in 40. We discontinued it to go back to 36. And then we'll go back to 40. Oh no, we can't go back to 40 because that would look like we're backpedaling. So let's go to 39, the next best thing.
39 is a sweet spot because 39
Sure.
to 40, buddy, that's a huge not difference.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's night and day.
So how many people in the Alps that are trekking and exploring actually wear an Explorer?
There's one guy. There's one.
Not the guy from the previous slide. That was the yachting guy, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I don't know. I assume so because he's wearing. Yeah, it could be a race car driver. He could be a neurosurgeon. I have no idea. But it's
if I could speak frankly, when I look at this, nothing
yeah.
of this appeals to me. It doesn't have the fluted bezel, doesn't have a date, the 369. I don't get it. For those of you that own it, enjoy it. I'm very happy for you, but I don't get it.
You know what this is a watch I think distilled down to the most purest form. It really has nothing that it doesn't need. It does one single thing, and it's just be a watch that you can put on and wear for the rest of your life and never ever ever think about again. And if that's not your jam, then that's okay. You know, I think the Explorer is kind of the most unchanged watch in all of Rolex's history. I mean, the 1016 was the longest produced Rolex they've ever made. And it was a really, really, really long run. It was like 30 years or something like that. I'd have to look up the numbers, but it was a really, really long time. And, you know, and it basically didn't really change. I mean, the dial changed a little bit, but it was the same watch the whole way through. And this is still the same thing. So you know, if the design doesn't appeal to you, I get that. What I'm disappointed about is the 40 millimeter version. It was too big for me. And I think the case proportions weren't very nice, but it had a matte dial. And that was so nice because the 1142, 114270, 1142, whatever it is, the old Explorer had a glossy dial. Ever since the 1016 was discontinued, they all had glossy dials. And I thought, boy, if when the 40 millimeter Explorer was out, I thought, boy, if they just made this a 36, I'd be so excited. They made it back into a 36, but put a gloss dial on it. And they made this with a gloss dial again. And I think, just with a matte dial, that is such a compelling one wristwatch for the rest of your life offering.
You took this exact same watch and took off the Rolex label and symbol, put the Omega one, put it at half the price. This is in the showcase for quite a while.
Tudor has basically that, right? With the, what is it, the Ranger or something like that? It just has a snowflake hand versus a Mercedes hand.
Well, it's very different if you're going to be in the Alps versus in the woods. You know, you need totally different watches for sure.
Oh, yeah, very different things. Yeah,
yeah. Okay, hold on a minute here. So I told you this is a Rolex themed show, not Timex, not Citizen. These are not 5-year-old watches, you know, branding. This is not Fisher Price. Wait a minute. This is an Oyster Perpetual where dial is like the market. It's available in 31, 36, 41. Not that you'll wear it anyway. What the heck are we looking at here, Pauli? Why?
Okay. You know, I'm going to go on the other side and say I actually kind of like this because at least it's something different. Like at least it's not. I mean, you're talking about blue dial, green dial, red dial, blah blah blah. Same old, same old. Rolex is like, screw it, we're doing all the colors. And you know what? I mean, it's dear. I don't know of a single watch on the market that has a dial similar to this. The closest I can think is the things that what's his name, the artist dial, where he actually paints dials and he puts kind of flex on them and stuff like that. But he'll take it, he'll do aftermarket stuff. I don't know of anything that's even close to this. And the Stella dials were popular. They're not Stella, but close enough to Stella dials were really popular. They just said, screw it, we're going to take all the colors, stick them into one. There you go. Whether you like it or not, at least it's something totally different for Rolex. It's not the regular. I mean, how else would you change the Oyster Perpetual without doing something what are your choices? I think to me, this actually is something unique, and it's totally out of left field for Rolex.
Explain to me the indices also. I didn't, I get a new appreciation as I look at the picture more, but why at the 369 does it have the Roman numeral 2 and all the other ones are 1? Like, what is that supposed to do exactly?
Well, they're all double. They're all like 369 are double indices,
Why?
right? Because it's just to make them thicker so you can orientate the dial in the dark a little bit easier, or even in the, I think that's kind of the idea. It's like the Explorer has 369. It's a little bit different. The old Oyster Perpetuals, like the previous versions, not last year, but before they did a Stella dial stuff, had single ticks at the 3, 6, and 9. And if you look at the Air Kings and stuff like that, some of them had single ticks. And I think they just did that from a legibility point of view, a bit of design point of view. I agree. I'm not a big fan of the double tick. I preferred it just a little bit larger, 3, 6, and 9 ticks for me.
I gotta ask you, Romans, for example, like the old Roman style where they actually had the full Roman numbers versus every other Roman number putting a single number, when they did that on the Day 40, for example. I don't get it. I liked the old style Romans where it continual flowed. I know it makes it a little busier, but breaking up the numbers, with a Roman number 1, Roman number 1, I don't get that either personally. I don't like it from a stylistic point of view. That's a very, very personal thing. I assume they did that to declutter the watch.
I assume so. Yeah, I think it was a design choice. Same like with the sort of the watchmakers 4, right? It's purposely longer. They use more Roman numerals and they go kind of the other way to make it, I think, bit more visually balanced. I think it's just a design choice and aesthetic choice.
It's kind of down if you do, down to do, because also there's points where the indices, are illuminated so you can see them in the dark, but some purists say, I don't like the cheap look of it. Plus, it tends to fade. So then you have watches that don't have any indices as far as backlit. So
no lume.
It's without the lume, so you don't see it in the dark. That's really aesthetically, it's nice that there's a variety for everybody because some people prefer it this way, that way. This particular dial, all I'll say is, again, if any other watchmaker did this, I think they would have been ripped to shreds. Like if Panerai came out with this, they'd be like, this is the biggest piece of garbage known to man. And when Rolex does it, it's innovative, it's avant-garde, it's Andy Warhol. This is amazing.
Okay, so what if Cartier made a dial like this? What would you think?
I would say the same thing, honestly.
Really?
I can see them at least as far as from a more artsy point of view, but I feel like I feel like you're pandering more to a certain market. I feel like a person who is going to wear this watch has a Hello Kitty backpack or something. Like, I think that's the route you're going for, but it's very childish and there is a stylistic point of view to that. But otherwise, I just feel like as an adult, I feel like this looks too childish to me, but hey, that's me.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's not going to appeal to everybody. I have a feeling this will be a watch that most people will never, ever, ever see in person. I think, this is going to be really, really rare. It's going to be super sought after as far as collectors and flippers go.
You could see it. It'll just have a little card next to it that says not for sale, display purposes only.
Yeah, I guess so. That's it, right? Or $46,000.
Well, some more watches that we'll never very see in our lifetime, likely. The Day 36, stoned, really stoned. I love your write-up, by the way. You really you should be writing for the Rolex catalog. Absolutely. And a big kudos to Pauli. Honestly, the time and energy he put into putting this presentation together, it's fabulous. Rolex commends you on it. A really classic day date idea, sort of like Stella dials, but more money. It's dripped. I
Hmm.
understand. Look, there's a lot of people that went into these aftermarket, and Rolex said, "Hey, we can give it to you from the factory this way," and people would prefer to have it factory done.
Hmm.
If someone gave it to me for free, and the rule was I had to wear it, I will do this deal in a second. I'll take either of those three watches.
Hmm.
Would I pay my hard-earned money for this? Hell no. This is for a different kind of segment. This is for people that buy $1,000 steaks and fly on private jets, I'm gonna guess.
Absolutely. This is the thing is, these are all on fully precious metal watches. Um, my wife's aunt has a Datejust, and she's had it as long as I've known her, so 20 plus years. And it's a two-tone. It's a ladies' date eight, or sorry, Datejust. Pardon me. And it has a, I don't know. It's a white stone, almost like a white marble with sort of gray veining on the dial. And actually, it's really, really, really nice because it's a bit unique. It's not just a white dial. It has this graining. And I remember years ago, I was in Mexico and went into a dealer, and they had a yellow gold date eight with a blue lapis lazuli dial. And it was really nice actually in person because it wasn't just a blue dial, it had a little intrigue. And I think, there's the appeal with meteorite dials. Uh, we'll talk later, but they got rid of all of those, I think all of them. So this is kind of a way to have those unique kind of individual pieces, I think, again. And I don't know, to me, I think the choices are really cool. I think the green, sparkly kind of lumen dial they've got going on there with the, I don't know what kind of stone that is, but I think that's really appropriate for Rolex. I like the ice blue kind of stone, whatever choice that was with the veining. I think that's neat. I think the sunset kind of, again, I don't know what kind of stone that is. I don't know. To me, I think these are really nice. I mean, I agree with you. I'm not running out and buying one and putting my money on it, but I think they really hit the nail on the head for a particular client who would be buying a glam. Like all of these have diamonds on them, right? I think that's important to note. So it's, that's the certain client, and that's not you or me, anyways, regardless of the dial. But I think for that customer, I think these are going to be a home run. To me, I think, and I bet you these will not be around for very long. Um, I don't know. This to me again is it's nice because it's throwbacky, like the Stella dials were throwbacky. It's something they kind of had done, kind of not had done, but they wanted to kind of go after that. And again, this is the same thing. They've kind of done it, kind of not done it, but they went after it. So I think it's very Rolex-esque.
I
Um,
really liked the mother of pearl back in the day. I thought that
yep.
was a real classy one. And when you find them now on sites, they're big money, but they were
Yes.
very cool. I've always wanted the mother of pearl one. When I'm looking at that green one, there's something you're right. It's got a shiny shimmer
Hmm.
text. Again, this is not for everybody, but it's pretty freaking cool. There's no diamond lugs, thank goodness. I'm not a
Yeah.
big fan of those.
Me neither.
They have the diamond markers where the day is, so I can see that. It's look, it's over the top, but
Yeah.
that's the market they're seeking, and a lot of people, too many people did this aftermarket. And you know what happens with an aftermarket watch? Like you look at it like a person that put a custom spoiler on their car or an
Yes.
aftermarket sunroof. They're looking at, I don't want that thing, and that. But when it's factory like this, I think it retains the value, and you're going for the discriminating crowd, and I'm good with it.
Yeah, I think this is nice to me. I think this is Rolex doing their luxury watches as best they can, kind of the way only Rolex can do it.
And
And
it's not going to be in the showcase. It's not going to be on the price list. It's
yeah.
for the very discriminating crowd.
Hmm.
Much the way of their most controversial launch to date, the Day Date puzzle. And they call it the Day Date puzzle because as I looked at it, I was scratching my head puzzled. It all comes together. Now, I'm a yogi at heart, love meditation as a Jubu, and I see this thing and it's very beautiful with the love and the heart. So you have different positive messages on the day,
Hmm.
and the date is emojis. And if you have to look really closely, but those indices are not plain, they are stones.
Yes.
That's a lot of the value, which kind of, I think a lot of people missed that one. If you're going to talk about
Hmm.
missed, people are really stuck on those emojis, but those indices are big, big dinero. I'm glad they did not change the bezel. I like the fluted bezel. They at least
Hmm.
kept that
Yeah.
consistent. This is a thing where, this is the Logan Paul watch. You know, This is made for YouTube influencers up and down. I don't know many other people that are gonna wear, and maybe Hollywood actresses and actors, but are they kind of pissing on the day date and the tradition of it, or are they bringing it into the modern day? What's your take on this one?
Well, here's the thing. You started this off by saying, it's the same old, again, excited about nothing. This is wild. Like, this is so far out of the comfort zone for Rolex and even the watch market at large. Like, I struggle to think of a brand that's done anything even remotely close to this. And yet it's still a day date. Like, there's sort of, this is the watch equivalent of a guy sitting on a beach who's clearly looking like he's flexing, but he's not. He's just so jacked. Like, they don't even have to modify the case to make something wild. Like, it's almost kind of like, yeah, I can move my little finger and just disrupt the whole world. I'm that kind of strong and I have that much prowess. Because to me, not everyone's gonna like this. I think if you saw one in person, I have a feeling the execution is immaculate. Like, I don't know what the dials are made out of, but it almost looks like cloisonné enamel. You can see sort of the outline, and it looks like in gold in the puzzle pieces. They might be enamel, don't know. But I bet you these are really, really extraordinary when you look at them in person. Again, not maybe you don't like the design, but again, this is different. And people criticize Rolex for being stagnant. Talk about just, and I bet you, could be wrong, but I bet you we're going to see emoji date wheels start coming from other brands. I bet you're going to see things like puzzle pieces, and you might even see weird stuff like watch dials, putting things like pogs or something like that on there that are going to be appropriate for people of that age who might be a bit nostalgic.
I'll tell you my true reaction now.
Yep.
Honest to God. I'm like, this is the greatest April Fool's joke that Rolex can play on us. There is no chance in heck that they're doing this. I didn't buy it. I fluffed it off because I said this is a joke. Like, they're ha ha ha, they got us, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then the days went by and they never owned up to it. I'm like, I think they're serious. I think they're
Oh
actually
yeah.
doing this. And okay, so let's say I can go with the love and the heart and the emojis and the
Mm-hmm.
messages. Cool. I can dig it. Fine. Why the puzzle pieces?
I actually don't know. I don't know what the inspiration for this was, because I agree. If you're saying you're going to go on like a love, peace, eat, laugh, live type of kind of theme, I get that. But then the puzzle pieces, which is kind of my irony, it all comes together because it's actually really disjointed in a very traditionally classic kind of Rolex case, right? So it's weird, but it's so different. It's like I said, there's nothing that Rolex or anybody that I know of has done anything like this. It's to me, this is exciting because this is like a transparent case back does not push anything forward, but this from a design aesthetic, right or wrong, does. It tests something, it tries something, and I bet you Rolex is very curious to see what the interest is on this. I bet
Oh,
you it's a really big litmus test. They're not gonna make many of these. I bet you they're gonna have a lot of people who are very serious about asking about stuff like this and crazy dials. And I'm hoping this is a sign of things to come for Rolex, where it's not, because we saw that too with the laser etch dials, right? That the palm leaves and that really nice kind of Jubilee kind of style dial, the blue one on a Datejust. So they are starting to get into different stuff again, and they used to do that back in the day. I don't know. To me, this as a watch is not exciting on itself. I agree with you, but to me, it's exciting because what it could be pointing to.
see, I remember when the Candy Crush was brought out. To me,
Okay.
that I really liked I liked it. A lot of people hated it. I thought it
Yep.
was so ugly that it was good. I totally got it. I wish I had the means. I did
Mm-hmm.
not. You know what they were going for today. If you
God,
and
yeah.
I had stocked up one or two of those, oh boy, oh baby. Now this is released in the peak era.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we're ever going to see this on a forum. I don't know how many of these they made. There are going to be
Yeah.
very few ever in the wild as far as somebody actually wearing it on their wrist.
Sure.
It's going to be a very special segment. And I can't even imagine the number on this one because also with all those different colored indices for the gems,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be a bazillion dollars. Like, this is, I'm gonna guess like it's gonna retail probably for around 200 US, maybe
Yeah,
one.
yeah, maybe more. Yeah, I mean, this is equivalent. Do you remember the leopard Daytona that everyone made fun of,
Yes, yes,
and
yes,
this
yes.
the Steven Tyler watch? I mean, the thing is, how many of those did they make? But that was wild. That was so
Yeah,
different. And they made those zebra ones too, right? Where they had the black and white diamonds on the and they had the leather strap with diamonds set into the strap.
yeah.
Like that was. So again, this is the same segment of the market. Somebody who wants something totally different, totally wild, totally unique that just they'll go to a party and no one else will have.
Well,
This is Rolex's solution for them. So
enjoy, enjoy, enjoy. Now, I gotta ask you, when did Rolex buy out the DeVille editions here?
the
Like,
rights for it, I don't remember what year that
what?
was.
Wait, is it called now the DeVille 1908?
It was
Because
the Cellini 1908. Wait a minute. Sorry. It's actually the Perpetual 1908.
so
If
we're
you
gonna say
click there,
goodbye.
it'll, yeah,
So for those of us that were calling it Cellini the whole time, because I think Cellini sounds better, it's Cellini.
yeah, it's Cellini.
The name is gone. It looks to me like the DeVille line, pretty much. I I like it. I like it. You know what? I like it. As a lawyer, I love the leather strap. This looks like a more warmer. It's got the clasp. I gotta tell you, when you gotta open and close it
Yep.
with the tang buckle, life is not good. This one with the Instapop, it's great. If this is where you are in life and you want a leather strap watch, I'm glad Rolex offers it, and I think they did a nice job there. I think the Cellini was a little busy with the moon phase, and it was ambitious, but not in that segment. I think going back to basics, I think this one will do well.
Okay. So I have a beef because I don't know what an oyster case is. And I have really yet to find out an answer of what an oyster, because an oyster case, I think of like if you take the like an Explorer or a Datejust and you look at the side profile of it, this it's a solid piece of metal. It's been sort of, so that's an oyster case to me and how I envision it. But then also if you take a Submariner, the case is very different, but that's also an oyster case. So it's not the shape all of a sudden. And then this is to me, looks like an oyster case. I mean, the lugs are a little bit thinner. It's a little bit kind of changed a little bit. But fundamentally, I feel like it's very similar to a Datejust, the case, but it's not an oyster case. And so it sort of goes down to, I guess, oyster case is just whatever Rolex chooses to call an oyster case. And I don't think the case is particularly nice on a watch like this for me. I think the lugs, because they're so rounded and are so much part of the case, I feel like it lacks a little elegance. It needs that sort of shape where the circle of the watch is more defined and then the lugs come out. And to me, I feel that's more appropriate design language for a watch like this versus the other way. It's more appropriate for like a Datejust, right? Where it's kind of so. To me, I feel like that's a bit of a misstep with this line because they're using that Rolex case, but they're not even calling it an oyster case for marketing purposes. So why are you designing it this way? And to me, that's a misstep on the design. It's a nice watch. I think it's cool. I don't know if I would ever be even considering it at this price point, frankly.
It's only available in precious metals, correct?
I believe so.
That's part of the problem as well. I think going if you had a steel version and you can keep it around the 10K mark, I think you got something there. I think going to precious metals and where it's at, and I think this one will be available. I think that
Mhm.
one of the more readily availables. I like the hour hand. Uh,
Yep.
I I actually like the 3912 because you have the seconds dial at the bottom. It's neat. You know what? The only thing I would do is I put a date and a power reserve on it, but then I would just be buying a DeVille again. So
Yeah.
it's
And then
it's
half the market would complain that it has a date and a power reserve.
it's kind of funny because especially on the secondary market, you pick up a DeVille, right?
Yep.
You got the date, you got the power reserve, got a real classy look to it. The amount you're paying for the watch, it's bupkis compared to the 1908,
Yep.
and it's a great watch. I'm really happy with it. And it's the one that I keep strapping on. It's funny, my cheaper watch is the one I want to wear all the time. This was Super Doc's model, by the way, with the
Okay.
two-tone and the chocolate strap. And it makes when I wear it, I feel good. I feel loyally. And when I see this 1908, I'm not going to call it the Cellini.
Well,
I I think they gotta have a classy line. Let's see how it goes. I can't do worse than the Cellini did, as far as I'm concerned. Although they did sell at the end.
Yeah, so this is the thing. It's actually the Perpetual 1908, which really bothers me because they like the company was founded in 1905, and so what?
How
Now I
did that
know the name
happen? So why did they
Rolex.
call?
Well, the
Yeah,
name Rolex was coined in 1908,
there we go.
and he founded in 1905. But if you're referencing Rolex being founded, it's 1905. Like it's kind of the name is wrong on multiple levels, and so it's a mess. Frankly, they just needed to spend a bit more time, I think, considering what they were calling this watch.
If you consider, though, at the end of the day, what Hans or Hans, it's Hans, right? Absolutely, it's
Hans
Hans.
Hans Wilsdorf, I
Oh,
assume.
Hans Wilsdorf. Look what he built from a branding standpoint. You see that green color. It's amazing if you think about like the biggest, if not one of the biggest brands in the world. And hats off to them. Especially as collectors, we kind of roll our eyes a lot, and we wish people would appreciate the true watchmaking that other companies have to bring. But it always comes down to Rolex. And you know what? If in the case where it does get people's interest and they do
Mhm.
get interested in the art of collecting overall and brands, it's fantastic. I think it's a great gateway in that sense. It's when you have the influencers and all they want is a Rolex and everything else is garbage. Like
Yeah.
when you have I remember I was at a Nike outlet store in up north, and I'm talking to the kid there. He's 17 in high school, and he's wearing a Rolex, and I'm like, dude, how long did it take you to save up for that? He goes, bro, everything else is garbage. You gotta have a Rolly. And it's like, oh man.
Everything else is garbage.
Garbage. Everything else is garbage. Yeah.
Wow.
Speaking of garbage,
Yeah.
we say
Ah.
goodbye to some old friends.
Yeah, a lot of meteorite on there, isn't it?
Get to see you back again in the sounds of silence. So
Yeah.
one of them, which I think a lot of people are very sad, is the John Mayer, the solid gold Daytona with the green dial.
Mm-hmm.
You knew it was coming eventually. Prices are, I'm sure, up as we speak.
Sure.
Um, we got the blue Daytona there because that blue is just got to be done as well for whatever reason. The one I'm very fascinated about is the Milgauss, and the Milgauss with the anti-magnetic and blah blah. Another very forgotten Rolex for the longest time. It sat
Mm-hmm.
there with its friend, the Sky Dweller, and the two-tone GMTs. And now all of a sudden, everybody wants a Milgauss. Why, Pauli? Why?
I think it's hype. The thing is, to me, if a watch is desirable, it's desirable before it's hyped. And the thing is, a lot of these watches, when the Instagram kind of world picked it up or whatever, then they kind of catch on, and then everybody has this group think mentality. But if a watch sat in a display case, like the Paul Newman Daytona, I think is the most classic example of that. Nobody wanted that piece of garbage forever. Like there's stories of dealers literally just throwing them out. I don't know if they're true or not, but that's they could not give them away, and now it's the most sought after Rolex in the world, aside from actual Newman's Daytona, right? So and the thing is, objectively, the Newman is not a nice looking watch. Sorry, guys, it's just not to me. And the proof is in the pudding. When you take out all the hype of that watch, it sat and they could not get rid of it. And the same thing with the Milgauss, it sat when you took out the hype. No one actually wanted it. But now that it's hype, now that the groupthink is there, I mean, the same with that green dial Daytona. I've seen that in a display case. Like that was, nobody wanted that crap. Right. But then John Mayer says, oh, yeah, this is the greatest thing ever. What a sleeper. And then everybody goes nuts for it. But it's actually not that nice of a watch. Sorry, it's just not. Don't at me.
In fairness, if you ever watched the Hodinky John Mayer video,
Yeah, I've seen it.
he is one of the most deepest spiritual people on this earth. So there's nothing John Mayer can't do, really. So I'm tongue in cheek, of course.
Yeah, right, sure, right. But he, I don't
But he
know.
couldn't do the same for the pilot. People still like the pilot, but I don't see pilots doubling in price. So
No.
there's something about that, and I agree with you. It was there, and if the means of it, I like the green dial personally, but a lot of people did not. The meteorite, I don't know. how it sold, what the deal was, but it's a cool story. It's a limited run, and it's time to say goodbye.
But I guess the I don't actually know the answer to this. Maybe you do. The GMT Master 2 in white gold Pepsi bezel meteorite dial, is that still around?
As far as I understood, all the meteorites are done. That's what I was
Okay.
told,
Yeah,
but
because they're not on this list.
not
And I
that I can.
assume this is
Yeah,
comprehensive. Full
and
disclosure, I didn't make this picture.
no, we kind of
Oh.
know. But it's this the Cellini there. See what I
Hmm.
mean now? Looking at the moon phase on, it's so busy. It's just so busy.
Yeah, this is really meant to look scientific or astrological. This is meant to be for the very considerate, pensive individual. It's kind of I think the what this has really been soaked in. I think this is too pretentious for its own brand. I think that's the problem. If this had a different name on the dial, it might have, like if Patek made this, I think people would have gone crazy for it, frankly. Oh, Patek, right? It'd be perfect for that. But again, Rolex, it's a bit of a swing and a miss for me. I agree with you. I think the new or Perpetual 1908, whatever it's called, is more Rolex appropriate. I do like the hands on this one quite a bit. I think these really, really thin, very kind of elegant, elongated hands were quite nice. I seeing them in person, these were actually nicely executed. I don't know what the new ones look like on the 1908, how well executed they are. Rolex doesn't have a history of making really well finished hands. So, and the new ones are quite a bit more difficult to make. So we'll see how that turns out. But
See, we'll see how
it's
they come out when they are in the wild.
yes, because that you'll be able to see, I suspect.
So we have our picks now for Watches and Wonders. You and I went to our drawing board. We looked extensively through the list, and we each came up with our own picks of which ones we both enjoyed the most.
Mm-hmm.
And little hint, neither of them were Rolexes, surprisingly enough.
No, this is mine because I'm oh shoot, I put the wrong name in there. Whoops. This is mine. I'm a big FP Jordan fan, as many of you know, and I think this is just so great.
Okay, so let's
I
start
got
off.
nothing else to say about it.
Okay, so this isn't okay. So I sent this to you as a joke because well, not this particular of this picture, but FP Journe in their infinite wisdom came up with this watch, we'll call that, and the finger rotates as the hour.
Yeah, it goes through different hand symbols. So I think it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, something to that effect. It never actually makes this.
It never actually gets to that point.
No.
I do like
There's
the
never
crown.
just a middle finger.
I do like the crown though. I know I think
Okay.
yes. I think the
Yeah,
crown's
I mean FP Jordan makes nice crowns and the cases are super nice. I'll give him that.
yes.
I mean, I mean, you know the story, but I originally got into FP Jordan because I wanted one, and that's really when I started digging, and I was really curious because the cases are thin and they're really elegant, they're nicely designed, the crowns are unique. Visually, you look at it and go, wow, and you put it in your wrist, and you go, this feels nice, it sits nicely. I mean, they've done a marvelous job from that side of things. And in Jordan's defense, and this is going to be another rare case of me saying something nice about them, but this is actually genuinely unique complication. To tell the time with your fingers and that kind of stuff with a hand, this was really neat when they did because they did a unique one. I think it was for Only Watch. I think is the original version of this. They did one of it, and if you look at the video of it, the actual winding weight isn't finished. It's all scratched up and scuffed. So you can find it online. If you pause the video, you'll see in the light it's not even finished. And I kind of questioned that. And the answer was, oh, well, it's a prototype. So, of course, it's not finished. It's a prototype, but it's an off the shelf movement that they use in a lot of their other watches. And they've built this hand module on top of it. So you have finished versions of this winding weight sitting around your office. Why didn't you just put a finished one on for a watch that's sold, by the way, in the 7 figures or something like that? It was or high sixes at least.
And
This
and
was
he
an eye-wateringly expensive watch, and you couldn't put a finished winding weight on it? Come on, man. I hope
and
this one's
he,
less
and he
bad.
keeps
Actually, my choice.
and he keeps setting new records at auctions as well. So this is your choice. Please tell us
Actually,
more
my
about.
choice.
Yes.
Yeah, so for number two is a brand I've actually really been quite into. They're probably as far as I can tell, probably the brand, the penultimate brand who really pays attention to finishing as far as big brands go. If you get into indies, it's a whole different ball of wax and they're all over the map. But as far as big brands where you actually can go to a dealer and they're going to have probably one or two sitting in a display case, I think Grubel Forzi is the only people who really best for number two, but these guys do a really, really nice job. And if you look at the movement shots, you can see there's a few little places where they did cut corners. But this, to me, I think it's just such a sharp looking watch. And most of their stuff, they got this clunky lug system. The cases are really big and chunky. They do sometimes like an octagonal design, which I don't love. But this to me is just really slick. And it's a different food bracket than I normally would look in, obviously. But this, it just grabs me. I think it's so sharp, especially sort of the white gold one on the right with the kind of that, gold kind of gilt color dial. I think this is just such a marvelous, interesting watch that really gets me excited. The hour hand, I'll admit, is a little phallic. That's kind of a problem, just a smidge. But overall, I think this is just such an interesting, unique design, and it just grabs me. I don't have to justify it beyond that. It's just a watch I saw, and I thought this is really sharp.
It looks very Breguet-ish to me, also, like in that the open. Yeah. But it's a beautiful watch. I can see why you went for it. Certainly.
Yeah, it's just like I said, it's different.
And it looks like you and I have similar thinking because I had a couple picks and they were actually Vacherons, and the one on the right, with you got the traditional tourbillon, and I liked it a lot. I like the tourbillon look. I like the open look, and it unique on how they did the days there. So you have an extra hand for that. Kind of neat. And they did the same thing with the day date. We came back to salmon. Sorry. But was it just because it was salmon? I swear. But it's also because it's a day date, but in a unique way. It's different. It's classy. I'd be happy with either of those two on my wrist, and it's not going to happen for a variety of reasons. But I like Vacheron as a brand, and I like that they have their sport models, but then they go really classy, and these are unique for them. So I think they did them really well.
Yeah, I think especially the traditional tourbillon is really, really, really sharp. I like that the Vacheron Constantin, the labeling is actually on the inside of the front crystal. I think that's a really nice touch, sort of how it's kind of floating above everything. And I have a feeling, I haven't seen this particular watch in person, but I have a feeling it's really got a lot of nice depth to it. Like if you look at the subdial that sort of has all the dates on it, that's actually, if you call it a subdial, but that's a separate piece, and it's sitting on top of the date train with the snail gear there, right? So you can see it kind of fly back for the retrograde mechanism. Like, all these layers they've built up that you can kind of see is going to be really neat, really nice, I think. And then the tourbillon is really deeply set. I have a feeling that's going to be a really cool watch in person. And even sort of the kind of area to the left and right of the tourbillon looks like it's sort of got this ribbing kind of pattern on it. And again, I think that's maybe on sapphire or something. It looks kind of transparent, but I bet you that catches the light in all sorts of unique ways and gives like a whole gradation of color and stuff like that. So I bet you this is one of those watches where, probably as good as it looks in photos, I bet you it doesn't photograph anywhere near as well as it looks in person. And I find that to be true of most Vacherons, because I find when you actually see them in person, you're like, holy smokes, this is something special. Pictures are nice, but in person, there's something, they have that je ne sais quoi.
I got to see really Vacheron Tourbillon in person, not this particular model, but when I was at the AD. And when you go to try on a Vacheron Tourbillon, they instantly lock the doors, grab the guard.
Yeah.
There's no messing around. I saw the price sticker on it.
Yeah, well, yeah.
It's the cost of most people's Ferraris. Whoa, baby. And it is mind-boggling how beautiful it is in person. If that Vacheron floating label is on the crystal, is it embedded into the crystal then?
I think so. I think it's printed on the underside of the front crystal. That's what I suspect.
Imagine having to change that crystal.
Well, it's only going back to them. Yeah,
sure. And it's gonna be big dinero. It's not gonna be a regular crystal then. So
no, this nothing's regular on this watch. I mean, you're talking to tourbillon. This is,
yeah.
You got to be ready to, this is a serious commitment.
And then the day date, the patrimony one, It's very simple.
Mhm.
It's a simple. There, you got the idea there. Again, it's not for everybody. Some would call this really, really busy. I think it's again, it's the least unique. Vacheron, they since the pandemic, they've really gone up. I remember, from their end, a lot of their watches, as soon as you walked out of the store, they depreciated by 50%.
Yeah.
It was hard to give away a Vacheron, even though they always had the prestige of being considered in the top three, but
Hmm.
yet nobody wanted one. And then when the sport models took off, everybody, and then I think they've stayed in demand as far as I can tell. Vacheron has really brought a full cycle and they're back up there, and people buy them, are selling them, can actually make money on them,
Hmm.
and very prestigious brand, and beautiful. Everything you see from the boxes to the clasp, everything is well done. It's a beautiful brand.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on all of those points. Now, do you know if most of the watches are fetching a premium, or is it really just the overseas with Vacheron?
I think
I
it's
genuinely don't know.
I think it's still the overseas, but they're not depreciating as bad as they were on the other
Mhm.
models, as far
Okay.
as I can tell.
Yeah.
For me, it's still, if I'm going to look at those areas, I still like Longa. It's
Mhm.
I consider them, an upper brand as far as from the prestige level point of view. And it's again like there's different Longas. There's ones you can get more affordable if you buy some of the older pieces that are not as in demand versus the other ones. But again, for a lot of people, if you listen to the rap songs, sorry to Hugh Blow, but it's Rolex, Patek, AP, and that's all the kids know.
Yeah, that's exactly. Richard Mille now, I guess, is the new one that's kind of coming up.
We're not gonna go.
Yeah.
We're not gonna go there. We're just not
You
gonna
don't
go
want to talk
there.
about plastic watches? Come on.
So overall, as we're summing up today's episode, Pauli, if we're gonna look at how Rolex did in this Watches and Wonders releases, what grade are you giving them overall?
I'm going to give him a solid. I'm going to give him a B minus. They did try to do some stuff. They did some stuff not very well. They brought back chamfered lugs, so I applaud them on that. I'm really hoping that's the sign of things to come. I think their attitude is showing the sort of the cheekiness of putting a transparent case back, but only on a platinum Daytona. That's a pretty bold move. So I don't know, B minus. It was okay. It was more exciting than I was expecting it to be. How about that?
And
What
I
about
would
you?
give them a B.
Okay.
It's like if I was a teacher and I wrote out the performance sheet, I'd say based on me knowing you and your abilities, I know you could do so much better than this.
Yeah.
But you came in okay. You did what you had to do. But if you really want that A grade, you need to go up a step. But I give them a solid B. The two things I'm waiting for when they're gonna get their A plus, ha ha ha, is when they're
Yeah.
gonna come out with a steel day date,
Okay.
which is
Again.
never gonna happen.
Well, they did it. They made a steel date 8. Yes. It was very, I don't even know if it was just a prototype, but I think there's something like maybe 10 of them out there. If
I
you
saw the
Google it,
tricolored one. I
the
saw that
Tridor.
yeah,
Yep, they did a Tridor. Yep.
I
They
don't
did
know
a
what.
Tridor in a day date with a president's bracelet, and it
Yes,
actually has the gold stacked. And then they also did a Pearl Master, if you remember the Pearl Master as a
yes, the Pearl
Tridor.
Master. Yes.
But yeah, there is a stainless steel president's day date. It's extremely rare if you Google
Well,
it.
only
It's
10. Only 10. Okay,
something.
so
It's something. Yeah, like it's unobtainium.
the one I'm going to tell you that
Yep,
we need to do is a red sub, red bezel, red dial. We need a red sub. That's revolutionary. That's the one I'm waiting for.
that's the one.
That's
And
the
like
one.
you picture the red dial sort of like the Hulk, like a sunburst kind of shiny, kind of iridescent.
Yes, like yes. I'm. It's not gonna be like it's not burgundy, but it's gonna be very prominent.
Mhm. Like
Almost
a like
like
red,
I almost like a blood red, but it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be very interesting. They gotta make
like
it
a
like, let's see. I don't. There's been rumors of it. I don't see it. I don't know if it'll ever happen. But again, it's such a funny thing. It always comes back to that Simpsons episode of Malibu Stacy,
yeah,
where in order to beat the competition, you just got to put a hat on her, and people are gonna go bananas. So
go nuts.
yeah, and I can tell you, just having come back from Vegas and all the Rolex stores there, there's no inventory. So
No.
this is across the board, certainly.
Apparently they're upping inventory. Let's see, or upping supply. Like they're upping their production facilities. So we'll see. I mean, I think their goal was to get to 2 million watches a year. Don't know when, don't know if, but I mean that'll make a difference. It's doubling it over the long term.
Think we'll ever see the
So
day where Richmond picks them up?
no, I don't think Richmond can even afford Rolex. I think Rolex might pick up Richmond. It might be the other way around.
It'd be funny if you open up their coffers and see, because that is a license to print money.
No kidding.
Absolutely,
So
because
interesting. So you read. So mine would be the thing that so two things. One, I would love to see the exact same Explorer 2 that they make now with the like the Steve McQueen kind of orange hand, but in 40 mils. I
yes,
love that watch. At 42, it's just too big. I had one. I loved it. It was just too big. 40, I'm in. Or the 36 millimeter Explorer with a matte dial. That I would jump on. And I've actually thought about getting a black dial OP36 because the dial is that sunburst. It's matte-ish, and I've been so close saying, maybe I should because it kind of scratches the itch. But there's man, a 40 mil Explorer 2, I'd be all over that with the orange hand.
Rolex, if you're listening, you know our watch lists. Let's get to it. We'll see you
Yeah,
back at
chop
Watches
chop.
and Wonders 2024. Pauli, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your knowledge and love of timepieces. And thank you for walking us through today the Rolex releases of Watches and Wonders. And I certainly hope we'll have you back soon to discuss more watch stories.
Love to. Really, really appreciate you having me back. It's always such a blast being here, Jonathan. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. Salute to you, my friend. And we'll see you back soon on The Chosen Life.
Take care. Bye for now.